Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode, I am talking about internships versus externships for medical coding. Do you need them? What is the importance of this? And what is the difference between the two? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay, so I'm going to start off the show by giving you the definitions. According to Wikipedia, what is the difference between the two? So, let us begin. What is an internship? An internship is a period of work experience offered by an organization for a limited period of time. Once confined to medical graduates, internships are used for a wide range of placements in businesses, non-profit organizations, and government agencies. Okay. Now, for what is an externship? Externships are experiential learning opportunities similar to internships provided by partnerships between educational institutions and employers to give students practical experience in their field of study. So if you are in a degree program, a lot of times you'll hear, oh, we're going to offer you an externship at the end of your program so that you can get some practical hands-on in the field. So what this means is, like, if you're in the RHIA, Registered Health Information Administrator, that's a bachelor's degree, or the RHIT, the Registered Health Information Technician, that is the associate's degree. If you are in one of these programs, typically that's what they will say that is included in the program is an externship. Now, if they're saying that we're offering you an internship, and that's usually a phrase used with like the trade schools, sometimes they'll say externships, sometimes they'll say internships. If they're saying internships, that is like a practical, hands-on, like you are working. That is a period of work, okay? And sometimes they'll say this is a paid internship, or you'll hear this is a non-paid internship. So it really does depend on who you're going with and what they're going to offer. But the bottom line is, between an internship and an externship, they are there to offer you experience so that you have something to add to your resume. You may have heard that it is difficult for new health information people to get into the field, medical coders to get into the field, because of the simple fact that everybody wants experience. But how are you supposed to get experience if no one will hire you? So getting an internship or an externship is extra helpful because you are making those connections already in the field. It is about making connections in the beginning because people are going to be watching and observing you no matter what you do, okay? So whether you are in school or whether you are in this internship or externship, you are going to be being observed. They're going to see how well you deal with any kind of chaos coming at you, or are you willing to go in and do the hard work, look things up, and really take charge of learning things on your own as well. That's what they're really looking at, because when people find those, then okay, this person, we know that this person can learn on their own and they're going to need minimal guidance. Yes, this is something that it would be helpful if there was more guidance. But again, because the health information industry is so big and they are able to ask for people to have experience because they figured somebody else will train them along the way. Somebody else will have to go through that with somebody new. Hopefully it'll be something that will change in the future. But in the meantime, if you're out there, you have to keep applying. Sometimes these trade schools will use, well, we do offer internships, and they'll say, well, it's, with this, but it's related to coding. Sometimes it is related to coding, and sometimes it's like far off from coding, but still in the medical industry. So you really have to be aware, and you have to ask questions when you're going to these trade schools and they're trying to entice you with, well, we'll make sure you get a job. We've all heard those horror stories of these trade schools that promise the students jobs, and it's really not even related to what they are going to be getting into. So that is something you have to be very careful with, that yes, they may be offering you a job, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'll be something that it'll be helpful for you. So always be sure to ask those questions. don't get romanticized with these people because they want your money. And let's make no mistake about it, they do want your money. And once they have your money, then they're going to give you whatever the program is designed to give you. And sometimes it'll be very little guidance, and sometimes it'll be a lot of guidance if you're really lucky. The important thing is you got to ask lots of questions before going in. And a lot of people, they say, well, you know, they said this, they said that. Do your homework. Make sure you're doing your research about that institution or about that trade school, so that way you know if everything is on the up and up, because it is an investment. I've seen many programs charge the cost of a car or a down payment on a house just for a certification. So again, if you're going to be signing on that bottom line, then you need to make sure that you're going to get your money's worth. And if they offer you internships, externships, that's great, because again, you're making those connections in the field. And even if you don't get hired at that place, still always make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because you never know who is watching. And you want to make sure that when you are spending time there, that you're asking questions from the people that are already in the field, because they're going to be the ones to say, okay, well, we know this person, we know that person. You know, the HIM field, medical coding field, while there are thousands of us, it is a very small community. I mean, there's like 5 degrees of separation when you think about it. So you always want to make sure that you are doing your best no matter what. And if you get frustrated and there's people there to help you or there to ask, don't feel embarrassed about asking, especially if you've done your research. And when people are brand new in the field, sometimes they get frustrated and they just want somebody to say, just give me the answer. And it doesn't work that way, because you'll never learn if you always ask people just to give you the answer. You want to make sure that you've done your research first. You've gone to all of the appropriate websites and you tried to figure it out on your own. And then you can ask, okay, I'm really lost and I tried to find it on this site, I tried to find it on this site, and I really don't understand. Then that is understandable. And somebody in the field should be able to help you with that. So, but yes, internships, externships are a great thing. Learn all you can while you're there. Like I said, make those really good connections so that it does get easier for you in the future once you start shaking hands and getting to know people. Well, shaking hands in a virtual sense, since we are still in this pandemic. So you just have to get knowledge where you can and make those connections where you can. So that's the best advice that I can come out with. But some of the things that you may be doing in an internship or an externship, sometimes it may not even be related to coding. Sometimes it may just be basic clerical work or office work, and they're just wanting you to observe because they can't have you in the system actually coding things. And that is acceptable because it's understandable. I mean, they can't always like make everybody to have access to this stuff. I mean, you have to go through a process before you're given access to medical records, because it's privacy, and it's very important that when you are looking at things that it is appropriate and that you have proper clearance to do so. So you may be given some work things to do where, you know, they may have blacked out the PHI, and, you know, they say, okay, go ahead and code from this. And that is cool, because then you'll be able to look at something like that it's live and real, and it's not from a book, and you can actually work it out and talk it out with them. So it really all depends. Many moons ago, when I was given the privilege of sitting with somebody that was going through their RHIA program, you know, he came and sat with me for the whole day. And so what I did was I had records that were blacked out. All the PHI was blacked out. So this was just a very blank canvas, but it did have the note in it. And so I gave it to him to be able to look at and say, okay, code this. And I gave him 5, so he had plenty of things to do during the day. So when he was going through and he was saying, okay, well, I have a question about this. And he did have questions about evaluation and management, which I took the time to explain to him, because he had gone through a couple of other people before he got to me. And he had asked them to explain about evaluation and management and they had confused him even more. So I love evaluation and management. That is one of my strong suits. So I was able to explain it to him, and he was like, now this makes sense. I get it now. So he was able to repeat it back to me, and he was able to work it out on his own with the other records, and he was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So I was happy that I was able to show him. But I had also that day, I had a meeting with a new provider. So I did bring him with me so that he could see that positive interaction. And I said, this provider is new and this meeting had already been set up. But I want you to come along so that you can observe, how it is when I am meeting a new provider as a coder, and I'm going to introduce myself and I'm telling them about the fine points and things like that, and then how to reach me if they have any questions. When you are a medical coder in the field, you want to make sure that you're opening up those lines of communication. And a lot of times coders will kind of shy away from that, or sometimes it's different rules at their facility. Every facility has different rules when it comes to interactions with providers. With some facilities, it is on the coder to interact with the provider. And in other facilities, they have somebody that takes care of that. It's one person, and then the coders just code. But in my case, in my facility, the coders are responsible to do the communicating with the providers. So I brought him with me, and I introduced him to the provider, and I said he is shadowing today. So he's doing his externship. Again, he's learning, all right? And so he's doing his externship, and he's here to observe. So I went through my spiel, and he's like, at the end, when we were leaving, he was like, wow, that was really awesome that you do that. And he goes, do you do that with everybody? I said, yeah, everybody that's new. And all of my providers, if I have to take over a clinic, I will go in, each one personally, and meet with them. Now, granted, this was before the pandemic, and of course there was a lot of shaking hands before the pandemic, but now it's, everybody's masked up, and we don't shake hands, but I do still go out of my way to meet my providers. Okay, we maintain proper distance and everything, but I still go and I meet them because it is an important part, and I think that it's not something that's taught. So him experiencing this on an externship is showing him some of the things that it's not taught in school. They don't teach you in school how to communicate with providers, or they teach you maybe how to write a query because that's important, but they don't teach you those finer points of actually, this is what happens when you're communicating with providers. And I was lucky that day that this was a very welcoming provider who was willing to listen and who was willing to say, okay, yeah, I would love to meet you and I have lots of questions. But it just depends. And if for some reason, you're out in the real world and it's your first time communicating with a provider, and a provider is not so excited about about meeting, there are things that you can do, and I'm going to have to do a separate video on that. But it's just one of those things that everybody's different. And with these providers, because they're so intelligent, they tend to communicate on a different level, okay? And they need somebody that's going to be able to meet them on that level. And it can be a challenge because it's not always the most easiest thing, but it is not impossible. For somebody that just has their certification, okay, I've been able to do this. And, it's very, very important, especially when you are a medical coder, okay? So learning different things when you're doing your externship or when you're doing your internship, it's very important to pick up good habits and to notice things that are going to help you in the future. In this instance, this gentleman that I was externing with me that day, he learned this, and as a RHIA, he said this is going to be very helpful because I'm going to expect my coders to do this when I get into that position. And I said that's good, because a lot of times leadership doesn't push this. They say, oh, I've witnessed it where, did you talk to the provider? No, I don't want to. And the leader never says anything. They're just like, okay, whatever, I'll take care of it. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be that leaders are going to push their coders to be better, to be more hands-on, to really research and know what they're talking about before they start getting with these providers. So there's a lot that goes into being a leader. And when you are a leader, either whether you are, you know, an RHIA, RHIT, or, you know, just a supervisor with your certification, you know, there's a lot that goes into encouraging people, you know. And again, it's something that you learn, you know, when you're in school. Obviously, your leadership skills, especially in the degree programs, you will be learning about leadership. But that's not just limited to just degree holders. It is for everyone. If you are a medical coder, oh yeah, you best believe you need workshops on leadership, because what we do is we communicate with alpha personalities, and it is a constant learning process, and we have to be able to better ourselves so that we can deal more efficiently with our providers. So something to think about, guys. You know, it's not just about being new and I'm new and I'm brand new. It's about improving yourself, and not just looking at the coding. It's everything. It is speaking with confidence. It is speaking with knowledge, because you're going through your resources and things like that. Something that you're going to be learning when you're either in an internship or in an externship, okay? Because they're going to be looking at you during this time, and they're going to make sure that, okay, is this person really ready? You know, and so it's nothing to be scared of. Everybody went through this. You can't run from it. You can't run from that self-improvement. That is something that you have to be willing to embrace with both arms, because figuratively, obviously, but you have to be willing to embrace this because of the simple fact that it is going to be important. And not everybody's going to be there to hold your hand either. Because a lot of times, you know, especially veteran coders will look at new coders just to see what they're made of. And, you know, you want to make sure that you're giving it all you've got. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important. You know, the patients deserve it most of all. The providers do as well. But you as a medical coder, in order to grow in this field and to really understand and like start to have fun with it, you have to give it your all. And, you know, again, being in these situations where you're in a position to be able to learn is a good thing. You know, it's not necessary. Do you need it? Absolutely, to get into the field. I didn't have an internship or an externship when I got my first job, but I went through a temporary agency, and that was how I got my first job. So everybody's path in medical coding is different. Don't feel like you're missing out just because you didn't get an internship or an externship, okay? It's not necessary. You don't need it. Does it help? Yes. And if you do get an internship or an externship, you need to put that on your resume. So many times I've met with people who I'm doing resume reviews with, and I said, did you do an internship or an externship? Because I see that they went to a college program. Oh yeah, but it was only for a couple of days, or it was for 3 days or 2 days or whatever. Put it on there. Sorry. Put it on your resume and put everything that you learned while you were there. Was it in an outpatient setting? Was it in an inpatient setting? Was it at a skilled nursing facility? Where was it? What did you do? Did you work with an encoder? Did you work with the books? Did you have what was it that you did while you were there? So something to think about and something to add on your resume, because that experience is experience. Even though it was just for a couple of days, that's okay. They need to see something. They need to see some kind of movement. Okay. Don't ever assume that people are going to know what your experience has been. You have to tell them like they know absolutely nothing about you, which they know absolutely nothing about you. And that's why you're there, because you want to bring your talents to them. But you have to be able to say what your talents are, right? So, but anyway, that's my message for today. If you are out there and this is going to be your first time with internship, externship, don't be nervous. All right. Go in there and have fun. Even though you're going to be the new person, just trust and believe you're going to be the new person for a little while. But have fun with it. You know, how your energy is going into anything that you do is going to affect the outcome, obviously, because you want to go in, have a good time, but you want to be able to learn. The more relaxed you are and the more willing you are to forgive yourself for not knowing everything. That's what I hear a lot from people. Oh, I just wish I knew more. I wish I didn't, know just so little. You're brand new and you're just beginning. And of course, you're going to be nervous. Of course, it's going to like, oh, but it shouldn't stress you out, guys. Don't get stressed out because, again, it's something that's brand new. You've never done it before. But now, when you're starting to get into the field, this is a time for you to be like, okay, I'm going to embrace this with both arms and I'm going to do this. Because yes, you can. If you got through the program or you're just about done with the program, you can do this. If you got your certification, you definitely can do this. Okay, so stick with it and just be sure to give it everything that you got. Okay, and it'll all work out. Don't worry. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. Have you liked this? Have you subscribed already? I hope you have. And I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.